Salutations, kindred souls. Did you know that surrender is one of the most powerful concepts that you can use to not only navigate challenging things in your life, but be in a state of being that more easily moves you through this life experience? Today, we're going to talk about surrender, the difference between toxic surrender, and how to know what you're doing and how to navigate that better in your life. Thank you for joining another episode of Lux Martin Enlightenment. I'm Lux. This channel is about all things enlightenment, not the kind that floats above life, but the kind you find right smack in the middle of it. So, we're going to start by identifying the concept or the topic of surrender in this context, because the definition of surrender can mean to give up, as in you were forced to surrender, such as in battle. But we are not quite talking about it in that context. We're going to talk about it in the fact that surrender is a conscious, active release, often of control, but the choice comes from a place of trust and alignment, not defeat, not collapse. Real surrender is a present moment choice. It is not a passive result or action. It's not passive. Surrender, the act of living surrendered, is an active, now moment by moment choice. And that kind of healthy surrender has really helped enhance my life and enjoying it regardless of what's going on, good times or bad times. Living surrendered. A really fun quote I found this week is, true surrender is when the soul bows, not when the self disappears. So it's an act of lovingly giving your hands to the universe, God, and saying, please help me, not I don't want to be here anymore. Surrender, living surrendered, is a partnership. It's the dance with life in understanding that the way I live, I project my energy out into the world and the things around me, as well as it's coming back at me and affecting me and showing me things. And sometimes those things are really hard to deal with or really challenging, but you can choose to surrender to the fact that it's happening regardless, as well as I can let this show me something. I can let this enhance my life, both in challenging ways and in beautiful ways. It's like accepting that you would like the world to delightfully surprise you in all ways at all times. That is a good, healthy surrender. Another thing that what needs to be talked about as surrender is what it feels like to your human. Surrender feels like soft strength. When you make a surrendered choice, whether it's to shut your mouth or to not go here today or to, wait upon this or journal about it. You know what I mean? When you make a surrendered choice, it feels good in your body, not worse. It doesn't feel heavy. It feels lighter. You feel like you're getting lighter, not like you're giving up. And so I would really ask you to, or we'll talk about it a little later too in the topic points, but really feel the difference between the surrender of I give up, Jesus take the wheel, as in like, I quit, I don't want to do this, I throw my hands up at this. That's not a healthy nor empowering form of surrender when you just say, you know what, God, you go ahead and deal with it. That's with an attitude, that's from ego. When you make a choice, when you choose to live surrendered, you say, I accept the reality that is unfolding before me, as well as the fact that I trust God, the universe, to delight me in all ways of this or better. It gets to keep going better in the best direction for me, and I allow God, the universe, to steer it that way in whatever should unfold in the process. Now we're going to talk about what the toxic form, more clearly identifying the toxic form in terms of surrender. In my understanding, toxic surrender, when it becomes unhealthy, is often called in the spiritual communities spiritual bypassing. In the psychological communities, it's called dissociation, or in layman's terms and plain Jane language, it's checking out. It's giving up, checked out, not surrendered. So those things feel like numbness. They feel like you're less there, you're less empowered. It feels like defeat. It feels heavy. It involves using language, whether spiritual or not, to avoid a certain topic, situation, conversation. So you're using the phrase surrender to mask something or cover up something that you do not have the capacity to be present and stay involved with, whether that's a person, place, thing, dynamic of yourself. It's not surrender if it costs you clarity. If you feel more confusion and less power when you say, I give up or I surrender, that's not clarity nor surrender. That's just confusing the snot out of your body and soul as to what are we doing here and how am I going to deal with this thing that I'm seemingly unable to deal with at the moment. So there comes this talking point of where we kind of need to say distinguish when you are using the term surrendered appropriately versus when you're using it in a toxic fashion or you're using it and calling it in the name of surrender. And it's basically when people say that they've surrendered the situation to God or they've given up or they're letting go of it for now. They're basically justifying staying in this unhealthy dynamic or this unhealthy tension that exists between themselves and their ability to do what they seem like is a solution with a person, a relationship, a job, an aspect of yourself that is detrimenting you or your life or those around you that you're affecting. So using the phrase surrender to avoid dealing with it isn't surrender because the thing is still there. The job, the relationship, the topic, the problem is still there. Surrendering doesn't mean that you or the problem disappear. It means you are open to new guidance or assistance or movement in how to address the situation while staying present. Over surrender can basically put you in learned helplessness or victim mindset. A very great example of this for me personally is when I stayed in a job long after it was healthy for me because I had put myself in a victim helpless state of I can't leave. I don't have a choice. I have to keep doing this because this, that, and the other. And I had all of these fears, some of them reasonable, some of them not, of why I could not end this cycle. And so I had put myself in a place of helplessness to the point where I was injuring myself, my body. I was getting sick. I was not coping with that job or my life or a lot of other things in life healthily. I was developing toxic coping mechanisms, all kinds of things. I was essentially sabotaging myself because I was basically justifying to myself and those around me that I'm surrendered to the fact that I just have to be here. This is just how it is. And that's not healthy surrender. That's helplessness. Another great example, which I can also say I've used in my life, is keeping silent to keep the peace. Obviously, we do that in all kinds of relationships, whether it's work, family, friends, a spouse, your kids. We all understand the practicality of the concept of sometimes you want to win the war and not just the battle. And so there are times when it's not appropriate for you to fight to the death over a particular concept, topic, your version of why it needs to be this way. That's real. And that's appropriately used. However, let's say you're in a difficult conversation with a partner and you're choosing that this is a moment where, you know what, we're just not seeing eye to eye on this, or, I'm really feeling really charged about this right now, but the other person that I'm dealing with is adamant about we're going to go with this. Can I make this choice? Here's the difference. Can I make this choice from a place of love and peace of I'm okay with the fact that this is the way it is right now. Maybe we'll talk about it later. I will still do what I need to do to be loved, seen, healthy, heard. Maybe it's just not comfortable right now. Maybe this is just not the right time now. I accept that. Am I at peace with that choice of surrender to this moment? Or do I feel like I've given up and I've shut up just to keep the peace? In which case you are now lost, a victim, helpless. You've given your power away in the situation. So those two things feel very different. Yeah, I think you would be able to agree with me that one form of surrender is I love you, I love us, I know that this can be resolved eventually, so I choose silent peace right now versus I'm just not going to argue with you anymore because I don't want more problems and I don't want to deal with this, even though I'm detrimenting or hurting myself just so we don't have to deal with this further. Two very different feelings, yeah? So now we're going to move into, those are two very good examples, but there are several other places in life where you may need to ask yourself, have I surrendered this, or do I live surrendered in this area of my life? Or am I checked out? Am I bypassing? Am I dissociating mentally from this? And I want to offer you 3 really potent gut check questions. I really like these. Do I feel more connected to myself after this decision or less? And that can be mentally, spiritually, and physically. Do I feel more in my body? Do I feel super amped up? Do I feel peaceful? Do I feel checked out, flighty, ungrounded? Or do I feel like I'm okay, I got this? Soft strength, present power. I'm in control of myself. This surrender doesn't mean I gave up. It means I'm open to deviation and navigation differently in this topic. Do I feel more or less connected? Am I letting go from a place of love or some other overwhelming emotion? I've seen me do this very clearly, shifting this recently in my life. Am I living surrendered in this topic because I choose to do this out of love? Or did I choose it out of fear? Did I choose it out of rage? Did I choose it out of disgust? Did I choose it out of overwhelm? That is a clear sign of, did I choose to surrender because I love you and I love me, and this is what's best for me right now? Or because I'm just so pissed I can no longer stay present in this? Or I'm so scared that I don't know what else to do, so I just quit. I just disengage. And then the last question is this surrender, or am I secretly hoping someone else will rescue me? This is a huge one that I used to struggle with so much on my twin flame journey. I would go through many, many cycles of this where I would, whether it was a topic or the overall arching theme of the relationship at the time, I would make a choice that looked like surrender, such as, okay, we can do this your way, or okay, we'll try life this way, or okay, we don't want to be together anymore. But I would do it in a fashion that energetically reeked the essence of, I'm actually hoping you'll come save the day. I'm actually hoping you'll step in and do what I wish you would do, or save me, or, rescue the situation. I did that a lot in previous cycles of our relationship. And so I can really feel the difference of when I choose the choice of surrender out of love, because I feel so much better. I can almost hardly describe it to you, the embodiment and the peace and the in myself I feel when I choose a moment of surrender out of love, both for myself and him. It's both of us. It's that, and that's an important caveat too, is sometimes the surrender has to be because I love me enough to know that this is the right thing to do for me, or that letting this go right now is what's best for me because I love me so much. So choosing surrender from love is super duper powerful, and choosing surrender from a place of, okay, well, I guess I'll just let this be, and I'm actually hoping that whether it's a person or God will just come in and rescue you, is not empowering. It's not, you gave up all of your power essentially. That's like saying, Jesus, take the wheel, in the toxic concept of, and I don't mean to fiddle with that so much, but here's the potent part is, when you take your hands off the wheel, you gave up control of the car, of you, of life, okay? But you're not asking, real healthy surrender isn't asking God or someone else to take the wheel over and drive your life for you. That's unhealthy surrender. That's toxic surrender or giving up, because you gave away all your power in the fact that even you as a human right now, there's something you can do about it, including surrender. Or as what my counselor said, the most important thing he ever said to me was, any movement, even laterally, is better than no movement. In which case, it's important to not really say, Jesus, take the wheel, because I'm still driving. This is my life, and it's still going whether I let go of the wheel or not. What I'm offering in a real choice of healthy surrender is, God, universe, people around me, will you help me deal with this in this present now moment? Will you help me engage this, or navigate this concept that is challenging for me in a way that's best for me as well as everyone involved by being as present and involved as possible. Can we do this together? Can I get some help? Not, I don't want to do this at all. I wish to either not exist in this aspect of conflict, or I wish for someone else to come over and take it over and do it for me. That's super duper disempowering. So, anyway, sorry to recap the questions because I really love these gut check questions. Do I feel more or less connected to myself when I made this decision? Am I letting go from a place of love or some other emotional, overwhelming emotion? And is this surrender, or am I secretly hoping to be rescued? And if you can really get real with yourself and ask those questions about a particular area in your life where you may be on either already toxically surrendered, or you're teetering on that, or you're not sure, those are really, really crystal clear questions to ask yourself of, oh yeah, I'm actually, I'm pretty checked out in this, or no, I'm engaged. This is just really, really challenging for me, but I'm still here. I'm still present. I'm not giving up. I am surrendered to the fact that it will pass. And now, moving back into true surrender, let's say you did identify a situation in your life, whether it's a relationship or a job or an aspect of you that's causing problems in your life. You know, maybe you have a spending problem, maybe you have an overeating problem, maybe you have a motivation problem, and you finally let yourself know, you finally admitted to yourself that I'm not surrendered, I'm checked out. I'm spiritually bypassing because this is what I'm saying to all my friends about this topic. Or I'm just so mentally not here in this area of my life that I hardly even address it. This is not the time to kick yourself. This is the time to give yourself a big hug and a pat on the back. Good job. Great job. Thank you so much for identifying the fact that this is an area of your life where you are in toxic surrender, because now you get to choose to do it differently. That's so wonderful. That is nothing to be upset about. If you've identified the fact that you toxically surrender in your marriage all the time just to keep the peace, give yourself a hug, person, because that's wonderful. Now you get to start choosing moment by moment how you could do it differently. That's empowering. Good for you. Take your power back. Good job. Let's go. Let's move on now. Okay? So, some key things that I would encourage you to do to help yourself move back into positive state of surrender versus toxic checking out is pause and get present. That's kind of a quick and easy. You don't necessarily have to be spiritual to let that be beneficial to you. I ask myself the 5 senses questions all the time when I'm feeling really up in my head, frazzled, ungrounded. I ask myself, where are my feet? What do I hear? Where are the birds? What do I smell? Is my skin warm? Or what does the weather feel like around me? What is the wind doing? Checking in and getting inside my body instantly gives me better results instantly. Whether, especially because I'm a person that likes to get up in my head a lot, doing the body check questions puts me back in the here and now. Where are your feet right now? And then asking yourself, what's real right now? Can I accept that this is the reality that's unfolding in front of me right now? Can I accept that this thing, this conversation, this problem is laid out here right now? Nothing I can do about it. It's here. Can I accept that? I'm in my body. I see this reality. Can I accept it? Next one I would suggest is name out loud this topic, this concept that you're bypassing. Whether it's to yourself, to a friend, to a counselor, talk it out, because in the verbiage comes clarity. When I spent time talking to my counselor about the incredible stress I was feeling at this job long term, and I started identifying the fears I had for leaving, such as what if I let all these people down? What if these people that I worked for so long judge me or give me attitude or treat me poorly because of my choice to leave? What if I make less money? What if I can't find something better that makes me happy? Yada, yada, yada. In identifying the fears, the counselor and I were able to distinguish, yeah, that's not real. Or you are replaceable, or here's a hard fact that you could accept, or here's what's worst case scenario and how unlikely it is to happen. So by discussing it, you bring to light the places where you've shifted into toxic surrender, helplessness, all of the things, because even to yourself, you're going to sound a little silly, and that's okay. But that's the point of talking it out, and that's why I'm quite the talker. I like processing out loud. So for all of you talkers out there, no shame in that processing verbal game. The third thing I would recommend to you, and this can be taken spiritually or not so much if you're not really into that, is reconnecting with your inner wisdom in the simple fact of sit with yourself long enough. In the spiritual aspect, you would call that like trying to connect to your higher self, or pray, or making space for the wisdom to drop in. It's essentially making space inside, making quiet, stillness, praying, having that inner dialogue with yourself. I have my inner dialogue going on all the time now because I'm starting to distinguish what the answer when it's ego and when it's my higher self, or something of the cosmos dropping in to talk to me. Yeah. Or if that doesn't really resonate with you, not a little too spiritual for you, I know so many great speakers and mentors and leaders out there who have said in some way, shape, or form, the only way to move through something is to feel it. Whether you want to do it spiritually or not, if you can let yourself feel the feels, you will get through this. You will process this in a way where you can get to some sort of conclusion on the other side. Most people are just so incredibly afraid to feel something that the toxic surrender comes because of their choice that it is unfathomable to sit with the immensity of whatever emotion would arise from processing this thing. So make space, connect with your inner wisdom, or feel the feels. The fourth thing I would encourage you to do is anchor in safe things or concepts. And this is more of like a mental or emotional soothing. An easy one to do is mantras. At first, I used to be kind of skeptical of like, yeah, how is saying something 15 times a day going to change my reality? So I don't necessarily do it like that. But what I do is I write on a dry erase board on my door phrases that really strike me. So when I hear something or read something, I go, "Ooh, that was powerful. That smacked me right in the chest." I write it down. Because then even if I don't remember to say it throughout the day, every time I open my door to go in my room, I read it and go, "Oh yeah, I really like that. That feels good to me. I believe that." And so I just re-energetically spark that little momentum of that soothingness, that confidence, that safety, that belief in this powerful phrase that grounds me, and that puts me in an empowered state. Things like, I can let go without leaving myself behind. I am safe to be present. Breath work, journaling, soothing things that bring peace to your mind and soul. You know what I mean? Not necessarily the human yet. The last thing, we'll get to that in a second. So things that soothe, anchoring in safety. And that can even be putting yourself in a safe place, whether that's sometimes I go check out to my favorite park for my dogs because it's quiet and I know nobody will bother me, or I go take a nap or a shower. You know what I mean? Like do the thing that brings a feeling of safety and quiet. And then the last thing I would encourage you to do to help you identify and shift back into living surrendered is moving gently. We all know there is lots and lots of research out there that light movement or exercise is incredible for both the mind and the body, whether you want to look at that spiritually or psychologically. Moving gently, stretching, dancing, walking, yoga, the things, not intensity, the things that ground your human body. Some of the easiest thing, my go-to when I need to ground, if I'm way up in my head or way overwhelmed, leash up those dogs and hit the sidewalk and go for a walk. Just the walking, I've always felt so much clearer after that, because whatever flighty, busy energy was going on in my body, I grounded out by walking. And so after a walk, I can always make better choices because I've let that energy move somewhere. So that is the point of the moving part versus the anchoring and emotional safety part. So let's recap because that was a lot to talk about, and we'll kind of package it all together in a nice little bow here. Surrender, living surrendered moment by moment, is truly one of the most beautiful and powerful ways to live an enjoyable, harmonious, more satisfying, and easier life, regardless of whether things or phases of life are easy or very difficult to get through. Living surrendered, apparently, I got some throat chakra stuff going on. Yeah. Living surrendered is a potent and beautiful and empowering way to live life. It is not giving up, it is being open to being guided and led to the best possible outcome. Surrender becomes toxic in the terms of spiritual bypassing, dissociation, or checking out when you are no longer present, you're no longer there, you're choosing powerlessness, you're giving up under the weight of defeat. That is not surrender, nor is it empowering. It is, I choose to disengage from this concept because I can no longer deal with it. Surrender can become toxic when we choose to use the verbiage or the word or the concept of surrender as a way to bypass working or being part of this tension we feel, of this unhealthy dynamic that we don't know how to resolve. And at what point you need to ask yourself, the way you can help yourself find solutions is to do the gut check questions. Do I feel more like myself or less like I'm here after this decision? Am I letting go from love or fear or anger? Or is this surrender, or do I want to be rescued? And then returning back to true surrender, or shifting these things in your life, doing some things that will help you make healthily surrendered choices are finding presence in your body and in your real-time moment, naming and discussing the topic that you're avoiding or that you're spiritually bypassing or that you've checked out from, whether it's with yourself or someone else that you trust. Reconnecting with your inner wisdom. Pray in a healthy way. Let yourself have silence, space. Let yourself feel the feels and process. Anchor in something safe emotionally or mentally, something that's mentally and emotionally soothing so that you feel safe to continue staying present in this situation. And moving gently to move funky, overwhelming, or ungrounded energies to dissipate it from your body so that you can then make new choices. So this was actually a nice roundabout 30-minute episode. I thought this was a really interesting topic to develop over time. And like I said, I can't tell you enough about the changes I see in me and my life when I've chosen to live in a healthy state of surrender moment by moment, believing that in this form of trust, I'm still an active participant in my life, but I am also open to a new outcome that maybe I didn't expect. I'm open to God delighting me with other beautiful surprises, good, bad, and ugly, because it's what's best for me. And I trust that, and that's my foundational beliefs that I want to live upon. So keep seeking, keep softening, keep showing up, keep living in a state of surrender moment by moment, beautiful, loving, healthy, trusting surrender. And remember that the light you're looking for is the light you already are. Take care.